Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick unboxing and first look at the Sabrent Thunderbolt 3 docking station. Now, this currently retails for roughly $170 US. I'll include a link in the description, and this was sent over by Sabrent for review purposes. When this originally launched a few years ago, it retailed for a little under $300, again US, and that was the going rate for Thunderbolt docks back then. This is still a very relevant product, like many Thunderbolt docks that launched a while back, because it does still have the full throughput, the 40 gigabits per second that Thunderbolt 3 has to offer, and actually Thunderbolt 4 is exactly the same. So let's get this thing out of the box. Before we do that, just a quick look at the port selection. On the back, we have, of course, the power jack, HDMI out that is capable of 4K 60 Hertz. You then have the Thunderbolt 3 port, which is also capable, I believe, of 4K at 60 Hertz, and of course, power delivery and sharing, I should say. Then we have another Thunderbolt 3 for data, and then we have a gigabit Ethernet, 3 USB Type A ports, and as you may have already seen on the front, but it may not be perfectly clear, audio in and out, 2 USB Type A ports, an SD card reader, and some activity lights. So let's go ahead and get this thing out of the box. Again, there are a lot of docks out there. If you've been following my channel, then you already saw recently I unboxed an HP that's about the same age as this Sabrent, as well as an Anchor that was a more modern Thunderbolt 3 dock. And I say that because many Thunderbolt 3 docks are essentially just like this. The design here is very similar, reminiscent to the Corsair, which is not, necessarily what everyone's looking for, because something you have to keep in mind with this is that it only does 60 Hertz on the power delivery side. So if you have a laptop that requires, I would say, more than 65 watts, this probably isn't going to cut it. But if you have a Mac, which is what I feel this was really designed for back in 2018, then you're probably going to be good to go. And at the price, a lot of people will probably say, I would rather spend more to get higher power delivery or more ports. I completely understand that. In the same vein, this is coming from, in my opinion, a reputable manufacturer that delivers solid build quality and overall performance. If you've seen any of the NVMEs and other accessories that I've covered from Sabrent, then you already know they make quality products. So again, as I described, move this over, but I'll get back to that in a moment. You can see the audio jack on the front, the 2 Type A USB ports, the SD card reader, and some activity lights. And then on the back of the unit, we have, again, the power port, the DC port, HDMI out, Thunderbolt 3 with display out, Thunderbolt 3 for data, and then you have Ethernet and 3 Type A ports. Now, the one thing I will tell you about this, other than the limitation of this, the 60 watts on power delivery, is that I would have liked to have seen more Type C connections, but we have to take into account pricing and, again, when this launched. Back in 2018, Thunderbolt 3 docks didn't have that many Type C ports, and that's quite frankly because the proliferation of Type C products just wasn't there yet. So if you're looking for more Type C ports, this probably isn't going to be the right dock for you. In my case, I'm really only going to need one. So to be the main line, I have to actually use, in at least my workflow situation with my Thunderbolt 3 dock, I will need to use a direct display out to my monitor, because with the Dream Color 31-inch HP, it's just not going to happen through any Thunderbolt 3 dock in my experience thus far. So all the accessories are out. Looks like we got some international charging cables as well, which is certainly a nice thing. Paperwork right there, so that'll take you through everything you need to know, but I've pretty much covered it already. In terms of cables, this looks like it is our Thunderbolt 3 cable. Yep, and take a look at that. It doesn't look that long, but I have to say, the only dock that I've gotten so far that actually had a decent length on the Thunderbolt 3 cable itself was probably the HP, but the HP I feel like is the most limited of the group. So there is the actual Thunderbolt 3 cable, and then we have the actual plug that will go into this power brick right here. And power bricks are not something you're going to be able to avoid in the Thunderbolt 3 powered dock realm. They are, unfortunately a necessity. It's the only way that a dock like this or any other is going to be able to do what you're looking for, which is really give you a single cable connection to accommodate all of your peripherals and, of course, video out, you know, that one umbilical. So here in the States, you'll be using this, but, you know, Sabrent does include cables for those of you overseas. So that it's a good thing. I mean, you know, a lot of people, they look at this and they say, why did they even do this? It's really obvious. It's because they make one product that they can ship internationally. So it's not just made for different regions. And I think that's good because at the end of the day, if you know you're going somewhere and you want to take that travel cable, you can. Of course, adapters still work, so they're not necessary, but it's nice to have. It's an added bonus. So that's pretty much it out of the box. With the 60 watts, I'm going to be very curious to see whether or not this is going to allow me to operate my Spectre X360, that is my HP 2-in-1 that I'll be connecting it to operate in performance mode, because that is the one concern I have with the 60 watts. Again, if you're an Apple user, this won't be an issue unless you have one of the larger MacBook Pros, like the 16-inch versions. Pretty much everything underneath that, smaller machines, will be perfectly fine with the 60 hertz output. But again, I think the only thing that anyone has to sweat with this is really the display port, or excuse me, I meant the Type-C ports, because, you know, to not even have one on the front, I could see how that would be an issue. But otherwise, the key here is, again, quality build, which we have with this aluminum plastic combo. I thought this was going to be heavier, larger. It's thankfully not. And beyond that, it's really just, again, utilizing the full bandwidth that Thunderbolt 3, which is the same as Thunderbolt 4, has to offer. So I think this is going to work out nicely if it lives up to its spec, which I expect with Sabrent, because, again, their reputation is solid, just like the build quality on basically every single product I've ever covered here on the channel. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe, and please stay safe. Later.